Yo, what's up fam, it's your boy Legend and I am back with another video. What if Naruto was the strongest Soul Reaper part 8? If you guys like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe while you're at it. The like goal for today's video is going to be 6 likes as usual. So hit that like button if you want the next part of this. Subscribe while you're at it. Also, I've completely canceled what if Naruto was in Attack on Titan. I'm just going to rewrite that what if, or either make a completely different one because you guys seem to not really like that one. Plus, I don't really get that many views on that one. So I'm just going to scrap it and not waste my time on that what if for now. But without further ado, let's just get into this intro so we can start this what if.
これが私の残白刀の真の力だ。
The morning light seeped through the tall windows of Squad 10's barracks, casting long golden rays across the polished wooden floor. A quiet hush blanketed the room, an unusual silence for a squad known for its relaxed and lively lieutenant. And yet, at the far end of the room, sitting at her desk, with a furrowed brow and a pen clutched between her fingers, was Rangiku Matsumoto. Not a single bottle of sake in sight. No dramatic yawns, no excuses to ditch paperwork. She was working. Actually working. A small stack of neatly completed documents sat beside her, and, with mechanical precision, she finished another and added it to the pile. Her movements were slow but methodical, not out of obligation but distraction. Rangiku only worked like this when something was deeply bothering her, when her mind was swirling too much to sit still. Two people were the root of her turmoil. The first was Naruto Uzumaki, the golden-haired enigma who had recently risen to third seat of Squad 1. Rangiku found herself thinking about him more and more lately, in ways that made her cheeks flush when she dared to admit it to herself. There was something about him, something commanding, yet never arrogant. His confidence wasn't a boastful kind. It was quiet, assured, something earned through pain and perseverance. It made her stop and watch when he entered a room, made her eyes linger a little too long during joint training sessions. And his physique, Kami. The man looked like he had been carved from stone by a drunkenly passionate sculptor who only knew how to make perfection. But beyond the sculpted form and powerful aura, there was kindness in his voice, maturity in his gaze. He never looked down on her, or anyone else for that matter. Then there was Gin, her boyfriend, Captain Gin Ichimaru. It felt wrong, even in her own head. Boyfriend. Lately, the title felt like a fading echo of a relationship that had long since begun to crumble. Once their time together was warm and filled with subtle affection, smirks exchanged across the room, lazy evenings spent in each other's arms. Now, they barely spoke. Dates had dried up, their nights were spent apart, and every conversation felt like a polite formality rather than a reunion of lovers. Still, she clung to the idea of them. Maybe out of habit, maybe because she didn't want to be the one to let go. Her thoughts were broken as she felt arms wrapped around her from behind. She gasped, eyes wide, until familiar lips pressed a kiss on her cheek. "God, you scared me," she muttered. Jin's ever-present smirk curled across his face as he circled the desk, hopping onto it casually and picking up one of the finished papers. "What's on your mind, Rangiku? You only work when something's eating away at that pretty head of yours." She hesitated. Her lips parted, then closed. She hadn't expected this. Him, here, like this. I. I was just thinking about you. She lied partially, hoping he wouldn't press. Jin looked at her for a moment longer, something unreadable in his squinting eyes. Rangiku, he said softly, the rare sincerity in his tone making her shoulders tense. You do know that I love you, right? She nodded once, stiffly, not meeting his gaze. Good. He went on. I know I haven't been the best boyfriend lately. I haven't made time for us. This just, with all the new transfers into my squad, helping them understand Shikai basics, pushing Squad 3 to the top, it's been overwhelming. And with Captain Aizen's death still fresh, I've been helping in the investigation and it's been hard, you know? She nodded again. She understood, but she didn't like it. Jin stood to leave, but before he did, he leaned down to kiss her. Instinctively, Rangiku turned her head. His lips landed at the corner of her mouth. And the silence that followed was deafening. She didn't dare look at him. She didn't know why she did that. Jin stared for a heartbeat longer, visibly stunned. Then, wordlessly, he turned and walked out. She didn't chase him. Meanwhile, Naruto Uzumaki walked the streets of the Seriute with Retsu Unohana beside him, their fingers intertwined. They walked like a quiet storm, graceful, composed, but impossible to ignore. It was their first public date, and the sight of them together sent ripples throughout the Soul Society. Renji Abarai, on his way to train with Captain Kuchiki, did a double take, so hard that he nearly tripped over his own feet. His jaw dropped, eyes bulging, as he turned back to stare. Other lower-ranked Shinigami whispered in stunned voices, but none dared to say anything too loud. Naruto didn't care. He was smiling, really smiling, and so was Unohana. But not everyone was content to simply watch. From the shadows of a nearby wall, Mayuri Kuratsuchi observed them like a hawk eyeing prey. His interest had nothing to do with their romantic outing. Nah, he was focused solely on Naruto. The third seat of Squad 1 was still a mystery and one that Mayuri desperately wanted to crack open. He slithered toward them with calculated grace, a pen and a piece of paper in his gloved hands. Ah, Naruto-kun, he purred, stepping in front of the couple. I have a small favor. I'm conducting a study on Zanpakuto nomenclature. Would you be so kind as to write the name of yours here? Naruto blinked but accepted the pen and paper without hesitation. Sure. As soon as he began to write, a tiny needle erupted from the pen shaft, stabbing into his fingertip, drawing blood. Ow! What the fuck? Naruto dropped the pen, clutching his hand. Before Unohana could react, Mayuri snatched the pen from the ground and scurried off with manic laughter echoing behind, like he was some giddy school child. Naruto and Unohana stared after him in stunned silence. You just gave that sadistic scientist your DNA so he can do some sick experiment, Unohana said flatly. Naruto looked at his hand, then toward the direction that Mayuri vanished to, then back at his hand. Should I be worried? Unohana sighed. Very. Meanwhile, in the human world, the moon hung low over Karakura Town, casting a soft silver glow over the quiet rooftops and narrow streets. The world was still, as if holding its breath. Suspended high above the city, a soul hovered, untethered and unseen by the living. The faint shimmer of his transparent body caught the moonlight as he floated outside a modest apartment window. His attention was fixed entirely on the girl inside, Orihime Inoue. She stood in her bedroom, gently humming, as she combed through her long orange hair. She moved with the easy grace of someone who found comfort in a routine. After brushing her teeth, she stretched and changed into pajamas, an oversized t-shirt that fell loosely over her knees. She then moved to the window and tugged the curtain shut, blocking out the window. The soul watching her frowned. There was a deep sadness in his ghostly eyes. She never even looked out, he thought, the corners of his mouth pulling in to a disappointed line. He wasn't sure what he'd expected. Perhaps a glance, flicker, recognition, I don't know, a prayer that she used to do, but he got nothing. With a sigh, he turned in the air, ready to drift away into the quiet night. Then he felt it, a shift in the air. Behind him, two grotesque figures appeared out of thin air. They stood nearly 6 feet tall. They weren't that far away, their bodies lurching and quivering with raw hunger. Both of their forms were bulbous and twisted, with sickly gray skin and masks that looked more like bone-crusted sneers than faces. Without warning, thick black tendrils shot from the hollow's arms, wrapping around him like a serpent's. He screamed, flailing as the tendrils yanked him toward the pair. Then they vanished, tearing through dimensions into a dark, lifeless plane where time felt still and light could not fully reach. The soul trembled across the desolate surface, chest heaving with fear. "Let me go!" he cried, his voice echoing endlessly in the void. One of the hollows tilted its head and chuckled, low and wet. "Poor lost little spirit. Now let's devour this soul." Panic surged through him, and he bolted, feet pounding against the sand. As he ran through the shadowy world, he didn't know where he was going, only that he had to keep moving. "Get him," the hollow hissed. The chase was brief. They descended on him like vultures. The scream that followed was chilling, rattling the walls of the dead world. Moments later, the soul was gone, and in his place, a hollow stood, newborn and writhing, mask forming, body reshaped into something monstrous. The next day, on the streets of Karakura Town, the bright morning sun seemed unaware of the horrors that had occurred the night before. Birds chirped, children laughed, and on their way to school, cars zipped by on the roadways. Ichigo Kurosaki walked beside Rukia Kuchiki, the pair mid-conversation about recent spirit activity, when a screech of tires ripped through the peaceful air. A heartbeat later, and a dull thud was followed. They turned in time to see a blur of orange hit the pavement. Orihime. "Orihime!" Ichigo's voice cracked as he sprinted forward, Rukia following close behind. Orihime sat up on the side of the road, rubbing the back of her head and blinking in confusion. "Did that car just hit you?" Ichigo asked, half incredulous and half panicked. She looked up, smiled, dazed and confused. "I don't know. Maybe." Ichigo blinked. "How do you not know?" Orihime laughed lightly, brushing some hair from her face. "Well, it was just a slight little bump on the head. Nothing serious." Ichigo's face twisted in disbelief. He looked around, trying to spot the offending vehicle, but all he saw was the tail ends of cars speeding off down the road. "That asshole! I'm going to kick his ass when I find him." While Ichigo fumed, Rukia crouched beside Orihime and froze. Her eyes narrowed. "Orihime," she said slowly, "when did you get that bruise?" Orihime followed Rukia's gaze and gasped. On her right ankle was a massive, angry purple bruise, easily the size of her thigh. She poked at it with a wince. Just now, I guess. Ichigo's rage flickered to concern again as he knelt beside her, but Rukia stared longer. There was something strange about the shape of the bruise. The outline looked almost like a handprint. But before she could voice her suspicion, Orihime giggled nervously and stood with only a slight limp. See? I'm fine. Probably just a bruise from when I fell. Ichigo sighed. You shouldn't take stuff like this lightly. Rukia said nothing, but her expression was tight. Something wasn't right. Eventually, satisfied that Orihime wasn't seriously hurt, Ichigo and Rukia helped her off the street. Orihime waved them off with a smile as she turned toward her house, humming again as if nothing had happened. Ichigo and Rukia walked together for a few more blocks, then parted ways. Ichigo headed home, thinking about homework and half wondering if Orihime really had gotten hit by a car. Rukia, on the other hand, slipped away and disappeared through a gap in the air, emerging moments later in her temporary home, a tiny concealed space inside of Ichigo's closet. She shut the door behind her, sat quietly on the shelf, and stared at her hands. That bruise didn't look like a normal one. Something was wrong, and she intended to find out what. 2 hours later, at the Kurosaki household, it had gone quiet. Ichigo lay on his bed, staring up at the ceiling, half lost in his thoughts. The events with Orihime earlier still tugged at his mind, particularly the strange bruise. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As he let his eyes drift closed, a faint repetitive beeping pierced the silence. Ichigo blinked, sitting up silently. What the hell is that? He muttered. His eyes scanned the room. It wasn't his alarm. It wasn't his phone. The sound was unfamiliar, faint, but getting louder. Suddenly, his closet door slammed open. What? Damn it, Rukia! Rukia Kuchiki burst from inside his closet, looking serious. Her what was left of her spiritual pressure was flaring. Ichigo scrambled back in surprise, nearly falling off of his bed. Why the hell are you in my closet again? She ignored the question entirely, slipping on a red fingerless glove. Ichigo, we have another job. A hollow is nearby. We have to move. Now! Before he could protest, Rukia palmed his face with the glove. With a crackling sound and a pull of spirit energy, Ichigo's soul was forced out of his body and into his Shinigami form, both of them tumbling off of the bed in a heap. No sooner had they hit the floor than a roar filled the room. A hulking hollow phased through Ichigo's bedroom wall, claws outstretched, its immense body coiling like some serpent. Ichigo barely dodged the strike. It had no legs, just a long, snake-like body. 2 muscular arms emerged from its upper body, ending with jagged claws. The tail whipped around and smashed Ichigo aside like a rag doll, sending him crashing into the desk across the room. Ichigo, you can't just swing recklessly, Rukia called out. You have to go for its mask. Focus. Shut up. Ichigo snapped, already to his feet. With a yell, he charged the hollow. His Zanpakuto was raised overhead, his feet slamming into the floorboards as he leapt, cleaving downward. His blade slashed through the ceiling, and he met the hollow's mask with force, but it wasn't deep enough. The hollow caught the blade with his hands, roaring in fury. Ichigo grit his teeth, pouring more strength into the swing. With the final push, the upper left quadrant of the mask shattered, revealing part of the hollow's actual face. Then, everything stopped. Ichigo's heart skipped. Behind the fractured mask, which was a quarter of the way exposed and trembling in pain, was a familiar human eye, wide and filled with recognition. The soul within the hollow's face, It was unmistakable. The hollow screeched in agony and vanished through the wall, retreating. Rukia was already shouting, "Ichigo, we have to go after it. We can't let it escape." But Ichigo didn't move. He stood frozen, blade hanging loosely by his side. "Why are you hesitating?" Ichigo slowly turned to her. His voice was low and shaken. "I saw its face," he said. "That hollow. It was Orihime's older brother." But guys, I'm going to end it off right here. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe while you're at it. Without further ado, I'm out, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay blessed, y'all.